Have you ever felt déjà vu? What if this feeling applied to our entire civilization? Imagine our collective history as a great cosmic loop. Are we just experiencing different versions of the same story? It's a pattern woven into the fabric of human experience. The core human conflicts seem to remain the same. Look around you. Is human history just another repeating cosmic pattern? Perhaps understanding this pattern is the first step toward breaking it. The cosmos operates on cycles. Planets orbit stars, seasons change, and stars are born and die. This is the rhythm of the cosmos. Is it surprising that we exhibit similar patterns in our own behavior and history? We see the rise and fall of civilizations as a grand, repeating epic. From Mesopotamia to Silicon Valley, the arc of ambition and decline seems destined to repeat. The 2008 financial crisis mirrored the Wall Street crash of 1929. Are we doomed to repeat these patterns? Is history a cage or a classroom? Understanding history is now a matter of survival. Our journey begins now. Let's travel back in time, not just a few decades, but nearly 2 millennia. Picture the Roman Empire at its zenith. It was a marvel of engineering, law, and military might. Its roads connected the known world. Its aqueducts carried fresh water to bustling cities. Its legions maintained a peace, the Pax Romana, that lasted for generations. From the cold shores of Britain to the hot sands of Mesopotamia, Rome was more than just an empire. It was the world. It seemed eternal, indestructible, a civilization so advanced, so powerful that its collapse was simply unthinkable to the people living within it. Does that feeling of permanence sound familiar? Yet it did collapse. The fall of Rome wasn't a single event. It wasn't one bad day, one lost battle. It was a slow, agonizing process, a death by 1,000 cuts. The empire suffered from political instability, with emperors rising and falling like dominoes. Its economy was crippled by overspending, inflation, and excessive taxation. Its borders were stretched too thin, constantly threatened by so-called barbarian tribes seeking a piece of the Roman dream. The very systems that made Rome great, its vast size, its complex bureaucracy, its reliance on military expansion, eventually became the seeds of its own destruction. The ghost of Rome whispers a timeless warning. This pattern of imperial decay is not unique to Rome. Go further back, to ancient Egypt, a civilization that lasted for 3,000 years. They built pyramids that touched the sky, monuments that have outlasted empires. Yet they too faced cycles of collapse. Their central authority would weaken. Regional governors would challenge the pharaoh's power. Foreign invaders would chip away at their territories. Climate change, in the form of irregular Nile floods, could disrupt their agriculture and lead to famine. Even the mighty Egyptians, who seemed to master eternity, could not escape the fundamental cycle of rise, peak, and decline. Their story is another chapter in the same epic tale. Now let's return to our time, to the 21st century. Look at the great powers of our age. Nations with immense economic influence, unparalleled military technology, and global cultural reach. We see them grapple with challenges that echo those faced by Rome and Egypt. Political polarization paralyzes their governments. National debt soars to astronomical heights. The cost of maintaining a global military presence becomes a crushing burden. We see internal divisions widen as citizens lose faith in their institutions and their leaders. Are we watching the same slow unraveling just played out on a modern stage? The historical parallels are too stark to ignore. The Roman poet Juvenal coined a famous phrase, panem et circenses, bread and circuses. Roman emperors kept the population compliant with cheap food and entertainment to distract the masses from real problems. This is a timeless technique of power. In our modern era, the circuses have just changed form. They are streamed directly into our homes, onto our screens, into the palms of our hands. The goal is the same: to keep us occupied, to keep us from looking too closely at the systemic issues that truly shape our lives. While we are mesmerized by the digital gladiators on our screens, real-world problems continue to fester, growing larger and more dangerous. Every empire, ancient or modern, eventually confronts a fundamental law of physics and economics: overreach. There comes a point where the cost of maintaining and defending a vast territory becomes greater than the benefits it provides. For Rome, this meant stationing legions along thousands of miles of frontier, from the forests of Germania to the deserts of Africa. This was incredibly expensive. It drained the treasury and required ever higher taxes on the populace. The military, once a source of strength and expansion, became a crushing economic weight that the empire could no longer support. It was a slow, unsustainable bleed of resources and manpower. This imperial overstretch is a recurring theme in history. The British Empire, on which the sun famously never set, found itself in a similar position after 2 world wars. It was victorious but financially broken. It could no longer afford the immense cost of administering a global empire. One by one, its colonies sought and won independence. The economic and military burden of policing the world had become too great. The same story can be told of the Spanish, the Portuguese, and the Ottoman empires. They grew so large and so complex that they eventually collapsed under their own immense weight, like a star that becomes a black hole. In our contemporary world, this pattern has not disappeared. We see it in the immense military budgets of today's superpowers, the cost of maintaining hundreds of military bases around the globe, of developing new and more sophisticated weaponry, and of engaging in prolonged foreign conflicts is staggering. These expenditures divert resources that could be used for domestic priorities like education, healthcare, infrastructure, and scientific research. It creates a situation where a nation can be a military giant but be rotting from the inside, with crumbling bridges, failing schools, and a struggling population. This is the modern paradox of imperial overreach. Furthermore, this military overreach often creates more problems than it solves. Constant intervention in the affairs of other nations can breed resentment and create new enemies, leading to a state of perpetual conflict. This is what some historians call blowback. The very actions taken to secure an empire's interests can end up making it less secure. It's a vicious cycle. The more a power projects its military might, the more resistance it creates, which in turn justifies even more military spending. This is the classic imperial trap, a feedback loop that Rome understood all too well. It's a path that history shows is incredibly difficult to escape once you are on it. The fall of an empire is not just about armies and economics, it's also about a loss of shared identity and purpose. In its prime, being a Roman citizen meant something. It was a source of pride, a connection to a grand historical project. But as the empire decayed, that sense of unity fractured. Divisions grew between the ultra-wealthy elite and the impoverished masses. Tensions flared between different regions, ethnic groups, and religious factions. The social glue that held the vast, diverse empire together began to dissolve. People's loyalty shifted from the idea of Rome to their local region, their tribe, or their new faith. This erosion of social cohesion is a critical warning sign. When people stop believing they are part of the same team, society begins to break apart. Today, we see similar fractures deepening in many nations. We are increasingly sorted into digital echo chambers and ideological tribes. Political discourse has become less about debating ideas and more about defeating the other side. We are polarized by wealth, by geography, by education, and by political affiliation. The sense of a shared national identity, a common story that binds everyone together, feels weaker than it has in generations. This is a dangerous vulnerability for any society. The Roman elite, living in their lavish villas, were increasingly disconnected from the struggles of the common people. This massive inequality bred deep resentment and instability. It created a society of two different worlds, where the rich and the poor had almost nothing in common. This is a mirror to our own time. We are living in an age of historic wealth inequality, where a tiny fraction of the population controls a vast share of the resources. This kind of extreme disparity is not just unfair, it's corrosive. It undermines social trust and creates a fertile ground for populist anger, political extremism, and social unrest. Ultimately, a society that loses its internal unity becomes fragile. It is more susceptible to external shocks and internal collapse. Rome didn't fall just because of barbarian armies at the gates. It fell because it was already hollowed out from within. The new colosseums of our time are not built of stone, but of ideology and digital separation. They are the arenas of cable news, shouting matches, and toxic social media battles. They keep us divided, angry, and focused on fighting each other, while the larger structural problems go unaddressed. As in Rome, when the people are at war with themselves, the empire is already beginning to crumble. Let us shift our focus to a different kind of historical echo, a more sudden, more terrifying one. Imagine Europe in the mid-14th century. A mysterious illness arrives, seemingly from nowhere. It is the Black Death, a pandemic that would wipe out as much as half of Europe's population. It was a cataclysm that reshaped society. It was an invisible biological enemy, a force of nature that brought civilization to its knees. The response was one of fear, confusion, and desperation. It was humanity's raw, terrified encounter with a microscopic predator. A little over a century ago, the H1N1 influenza, misleadingly called the Spanish flu, spread across the globe. It was incredibly lethal, killing an estimated 50 million people worldwide. In the early 21st century, we faced our own global pandemic. We found ourselves facing a novel coronavirus. A tiny, unseen organism had the power to shut down the entire planet. During the Black Death, a different kind of plague spread, the plague of misinformation. Baseless accusations led to violence. This repeated during the 1918 flu pandemic. Consider our most recent pandemic. We witnessed one of the most widespread plagues of misinformation ever seen. The digital age was no vaccine against ignorance. The parallel is undeniable. Technology has changed, but human psychology remains the same. History shows every pandemic is accompanied by an infodemic more virulent than ever. When faced with a crisis they cannot control, humans have a powerful, ancient instinct: find someone to blame. During the Black Death, this had horrific consequences as people turned on their Jewish neighbors. These lies led to brutal pogroms and massacres. This is a dark and repeating chapter in the human story. The impulse to blame the other is a powerful force during any public health crisis. In our recent global health crisis, this ugly pattern re-emerged. As the new virus began to spread, so did a tide of xenophobia and racism. The blame game is more than just a social ill. It is a public health disaster that weakens our collective immune system. Amidst the chaos of any great plague, there is also a story of human ingenuity, the desperate scramble for a cure. During the Black Death, this scramble was rooted in superstition. It represents a fundamental human drive, the refusal to simply surrender to fate. By the time of the 1918 influenza pandemic, science had made significant leaps forward. When the novel coronavirus emerged, the world witnessed the most rapid and intensive scientific response in human history. It was a monumental triumph of modern science and international collaboration. Yet, even this triumph revealed a familiar historical pattern: inequality. We had the scientific tools to end the crisis, but our old human patterns of self-interest threatened to undermine our own brilliant success. Let's shift from invisible threats to the explosive force of revolution. France, 1789. A nation of staggering inequality, the majority hungry and powerless, the elite living in luxury. The storming of the Bastille ignited a fire that toppled a kingdom. Russia, early 1900s. The same pattern: deep inequality, a disconnected elite, and a population pushed to the brink. Revolution erupts when the social contract shatters and people demand dignity and a voice. The cries for liberty, equality, fraternity in France, and peace, land bred in Russia, echo in today's protests worldwide. From the Arab Spring to Occupy Wall Street, the spark remains: outrage at systemic inequality and the demand for a fairer world. The revolution's script repeats: different places, same fundamental force. Revolutions begin with forbidden ideas, not mobs. In colonial America, radical pamphlets like Paine's Common Sense challenged the right of kings and inspired rebellion. Enlightenment thinkers in France spread new visions of justice and rights, fueling mass discontent. Ideas, more than armies, topple empires by changing what people believe is possible. Those in power have always tried to control information, banning books, censoring writers, building firewalls. But forbidden ideas are irresistible. Knowledge finds a way. Today, the internet is the new battleground. Viral posts, encrypted messages, and citizen videos bypass censors. The war between control and freedom continues, just with new weapons. Every protest era invents its own tools. American colonists used committees of correspondence, civil rights activists staged sit-ins and boycotts. Public spaces, agoras, forums, streets have always been stages for dissent. Now, digital spaces join the fight. Hashtags unite millions, viral videos expose injustice, crowdfunding fuels movements. Encrypted apps protect activists, but technology also enables surveillance and disinformation. The struggle is no longer just for the streets, but for control of digital infrastructure. Modern revolutionaries must master both physical and digital tactics. The tools evolve, but the contest between dissent and power endures. After the old order falls, building a just society is the real challenge. Revolutionary unity often dissolves into chaos. France's reign of terror, Russia's civil war, new tyrannies rising from old. The dream of freedom can become a nightmare as power vacuums breed conflict. The Arab Spring's optimism gave way to civil wars and resurgent dictatorships. Is lasting revolution possible, or does tyranny simply return in new forms? Yet the desire for freedom persists. Even failed revolutions leave ideals that inspire future generations. Liberty and equality remain unfinished projects, taken up anew by each era. Revolution is not a single event, but a long, ongoing struggle. Why do these cycles repeat? The answer lies in our own minds. Our brains, shaped by evolution, are wired for short-term rewards, not long-term planning. This bias drives unsustainable choices: debt, environmental neglect, crisis mismanagement. Greed, once a survival tool, now fuels inequality and instability. Our flawed risk perception makes us react to immediate threats, but ignore slow-building dangers. Societies often fail to act until catastrophe strikes. These cognitive bugs shape history's repeating patterns. To break the cycle, we must understand and outsmart our own minds. Beyond individual psychology, we are shaped by the group. Humans are social animals. Our survival depends on cohesive groups. Belonging provides safety, cooperation, and identity. But this strength has a dark side, a tendency to divide the world into us versus them. This tribal instinct drives nationalism, racism, religious conflict, and political polarization. Leaders exploit this us versus them thinking to consolidate authority. Within groups, groupthink suppresses dissent, leading to flawed decisions. The desire to belong can be stronger than the desire to be right. Trapped in these cages, we repeat history. We have journeyed through time from ancient Rome to modern battlegrounds. We've seen patterns of collapse, plague, and revolution. It's a sobering journey, suggesting we're trapped on a spinning wheel of history. Are we doomed to repeat it? History isn't prophecy, it's a record of choices. Recognizing patterns of greed and fear is the first step to defying them. We are not just subjects, we are its authors. Our awareness with access to the past presents a profound choice. We can use this unique map to navigate away from the pitfalls of history. Escaping the loop is humanity's great unfinished project. So how do we begin? How do we chart a course away from the past? It begins with education and championing reason, scientific inquiry, and the free exchange of ideas. We must value evidence over ideology. Furthermore, we must consciously work to expand our circle of empathy. Our survival depends on our ability to extend our sense of us to include all 7 billion people on this small, fragile planet. We may yet fail, but we are not doomed unless we choose to be. The choice, as always, is ours.